So hopefully we can be that little help so that kid can grow up and be whoever they want to be, right? And add to the world in whatever amazing way they want to add to the world. So I would love us to do more. I mean, that's what we're talking about this. We're a fundraising organization. I'm talking about it everywhere, trying to get more people to give money to the Orange Effect because we've got a pretty darn good process of board members who go through and vet and make sure. That's really what we bring to the table, that vetting process, working with the therapist, working with the insurance companies, getting better rates for them and figuring out where a problem exists, and then delivering money to that therapist so they can offer those services.
Welcome to the Simple Brand Podcast, the show dedicated to helping you create simple experiences for your customers and for your team members. Each week, we're bringing you amazing interviews with business leaders and authors who will teach you how to differentiate your business with the one thing your customers need the most: simplicity. Your customers live in a complex world. Let's make it simple. Now, here's your host, Matt Lyles.
On the Simple Brand Podcast, we shine the spotlight on a lot of authors, business leaders, and thought leaders who have lessons to help you learn how to provide simple experiences to your customers and to your people. But throughout the month of November, we're also shining the spotlight on a number of nonprofit organizations who are doing some really significant work in the world. These organizations focus on a variety of different needs, so my goal, my hope, is that you learn about some needs in the world that you probably weren't aware of before, and that you learn how you can help make a difference with these organizations. My guest this week in the November Nonprofit Series is Joe Pulizzi. Joe was previously featured on the Simple Brand Podcast, episode 33. He's the founder of the Content Marketing Institute and The Tilt. He's the co-host of This Old Marketing Podcast, and he's the best-selling author of a number of books, including Content Inc. But we're not here to talk about content today. Oh no. We're here to talk about the organization that Joe and his wife Pam founded in 2014, Orange Effect Foundation. Orange Effect Foundation makes sure children with speech disorders receive the speech therapy and technology equipment they need, especially when the children's family doesn't have the financial means for it. Not only that, Orange Effect Foundation also creates relationships with speech therapists to help them help families know about the financial opportunities. And they work with therapists and families to help simplify their understanding of the insurance around paying for therapy and equipment. So here it is. Here's my interview with Joe Pulizzi to talk about Orange Effect Foundation. Hi, Joe. Good to see you again. Welcome back.
Matt, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we talked a few months ago, but now you're back again as part of what I refer to the probably not that well named the Two Timers Club.
Well, I'm honored. It must have went okay the first time. So having me back, I guess that's a good thing.
I hope so. And then eventually, some people are going to be able to come back to be the Three Timers Club. And that's a much more.
All right. I'm going to write that down as a goal. There we go.
There you go. But today, we're not talking about content so much. Actually going to talk about something else you have going on, the Orange Effect Foundation. So I've heard a little bit about it. You've told me some about it. I've read up on it, but I want an explanation from you. Explain the Orange Effect Foundation to me. What's the origin story? What's the mission?
Well, it's interesting. The origin story, actually, it happened with the birth of my oldest child. He was diagnosed on the autism spectrum at the age of 2. So this is back in 2001. So 2003, had no word, no vocabulary. And if you know anything about kids on the autism spectrum, they don't look people in the eyes. They don't play with others generally. And we were a bit concerned. And then he had really no vocabulary by the time he was 3 years old, which of course is a concern to a father, to my wife and I. We didn't really know what to do. And then my wife specifically started going on the rabbit hole with figuring out, okay, what can we do so that he can live as normal a life as he wants to live and be whoever he wants to be? And we started understanding the role that speech therapy played in autism. And if you know anything about the autism movement, there's a lot of wonderful organizations that do a lot of really good around autism, but most of it's around research and figuring out the why and trying to stop the why. But there's not a lot of organizations dealing with, okay, they have autism. Now what do they do? Especially on the speech therapy side. And we started to, my wife specifically, created a program of speech and play therapy, really aggressive, multiple times a day, to figure out if we could get my oldest to start to communicate. And it really started to work, Matt. And we're like, oh my gosh, this is really working wonders. He started to speak. He started to communicate. He started to look us in the eye. And it's like, this is a huge transformation, all because we started the speech therapy program. He started regular school a little bit later, a year later than most. He had a tutor in school until he was 8 years old, and then was able to get rid of the tutor. And right now, my oldest is in university, sophomore, majored in cybersecurity, doing great.
Wow.
And then, I tell you that story, Matt, because along the way, as we met a bunch of parents, we realized that a lot of parents didn't have the financial means that we did. We were able to pay for a lot of the speech and play therapy. We found so many families that weren't able to. It basically is tragic, because you had wonderful children that wanted to communicate that couldn't, and you had families that couldn't afford speech therapy, and it's so critical. So in 2007, we partnered with Easter Seals to put on a simple golf event. So this is how it said. It was the Junta 42, that was my company at the time, Golf for Autism. We got all my friends together, and we raised like $10,000 that year, and we gave it all to Easter Seals for them to help support their program around autism and speech therapy. And then we realized we could do a lot more. So a few years later, we created our own organization, Orange Effect Foundation, as we saw that there were more and more people that needed that. And we really targeted a process where we could deliver speech therapy funds and technology services to families who really needed it. So that's the mission behind Orange Effect Foundation. And now, so it's been 2014, we became a 501c3. And now, what is it? Almost 8 years later now, we have 250 some children that we have grants going out to in 34 different states. And we do fundraisers all throughout the year. And we are a fundraising organization. And then we work directly with speech therapists around the United States to actually find families who really need these services. And we look for those people that just don't have the financial resources or the insurance to be able to do that. So we'd like to fill in the gap as sort of that last resort.
Well, what kind of financial costs are we talking about here?
We are really promoters of consistent speech therapy, because that's what works. Just like we talked about in the last episode, man, we talk about consistent communication. It's all about consistency. So we can support 1 day a week speech therapy to someone in need for generally about $2,500. And that covers them for the year. Sometimes insurance covers the other part, so they can get 2 times a week speech therapy, and we can cover half of that. That's what we like to see. But generally, it takes about $50 plus an hour. I mean, if you're in an area like New York, it's going to cost a little more for a speech therapist. And if you're in maybe the Midwest, it's going to be a little bit less. But generally, on average, you need at least $50 to $75 an hour to cover that. And we like to cover a year's worth when we decide to deliver a grant to a child. So, and then by the way, it's not just speech therapy. In a lot of cases, I think we have something like 40 or 50 kids on devices out there. So they're basically iPads that do all kinds of amazing stuff and help these kids communicate. Those generally can go from $5,000 to $7,000 to $10,000 each. So we try to, if they can't afford that through insurance or partial insurance, we try to cover the other half so that they can cover some of these needs. Because the biggest problem is if an organization like Orange Effect or some of the other great ones out there doing the same things we do don't come in and fill that gap financially, they go without, which is the tragedy, which is my oldest, who, I can't imagine if my oldest did not get speech therapy when 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old. He definitely wouldn't be in university at this point. That's for sure.
Right. Well, and then think about, as a proud father, you can only imagine what he's going to be able to do after graduation and in his career. And he's currently studying cybersecurity. Is that right?
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So think about the possible impact, the possible legacy he might be able to leave through his career. But then if you think about all these, hundreds and hundreds of children who might not be able to afford that, you're talking about so much less impact in the world and fewer legacies that they may be able to leave.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're right. And by the way, like we're not an Autism Speaks. It's not a huge organization. We're not dealing with hundreds of millions of dollars or anything like that. We're really focused on there's a kid in Des Moines, Iowa, that their family doesn't have insurance. They have total income of $35,000 during the year. They're both working full-time jobs. The parents, they're at their wits' end. They just need a little help. So hopefully we can be that little help so that kid can grow up and be whoever they want to be, right? And add to the world in whatever amazing way they want to add to the world. So I would love us to do more. I mean, that's what we're talking about this. We're a fundraising organization. I'm talking about it everywhere, trying to get more people to give money to the Orange Effect because we've got a pretty darn good process of board members who go through and vet and make sure. That's really what we bring to the table, that vetting process, working with the therapist, working with the insurance companies, getting better rates for them and figuring out where a problem exists, and then delivering money to that therapist so they can offer those services.
So you're not just solely focused on the financial side and just helping to provide financial assistance. You're actually working with speech therapists. You're working with insurance companies to figure out how to make a better system with this.
So what happens is, let's say a child goes and gets a diagnosis and they're on the autism spectrum and it's recommended for them to get speech therapy. Well, the therapist that's working with them that makes the recommendation will know pretty quickly whether that family either has insurance to cover it or can cover it out of pocket. And if they can't cover it, they're still like, well, what do? They know this child needs speech therapy.
Yeah.
And luckily we formed relationships with therapists all over the country who say, oh, great, Orange Effect is out there. Let's work together and complete an application, deliver that to Orange Effect so that we can look at and see if we can deliver funds. The other thing that we do that, I didn't even know was a thing, but we've gotten into it is that a lot of these, I want to say this nicely, a lot of them are not paying the insurance rates that they should. They're paying more insurance for these things, and they're paying more for technology, and they're paying more for therapy. And when we come in there, because we've worked with so many kids in so many states now, we have a little bit of leverage to say, look, we know that the cost needs to be this and not that. So we can help them immediately by dropping that hourly fee down or that technology fee down. So we work on that. And then we try to then fund the rest of that so that we can deliver more. Because if we're going to be delivering, let's say $5,000 to a child and their family, we want all of that to be used for as much as possible. And if we can lower that rate, the better for everybody.
Of course. And I can only imagine being a parent in that situation. You're stressed, you're frustrated, you're spending so much time trying to help your child, and then you don't have access to a lot of information. So then when you see these things happening, you're like, he needs this, she needs this. Okay, great. Where are we going to get that from? And then they say, okay, and it's going to cost this much. Okay, I guess so. It sounds like this whole program focuses on providing that clarity as well, with the speech therapist providing clarity on, hey, here's someone that can help you. And then taking it further down the line, here's more clarity on what it actually should be costing.
Well, you're right. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, I remember the meeting really well. We went to the hospital. We were recommended to go to a very renowned doctor in our area of Cleveland, Ohio. And you get the news that your child will never communicate effectively as they grow, and they probably will never go to regular school. That's what we were told. I'm a brand new father. Basically, my child is 2 years old, and I'm given the news that my kid's not going to be normal, whatever normal means, right? But you're like, you're like, oh my God, what do I do with this? So you're already in shock. And then you want to fight back, and you've got denial, and you're like, no, like there's things that we can do. And luckily for my wife, she's who's the executive director of the Orange Effect Foundation, she was able to push through and say, no, there's got to be a way. Luckily, she was a social worker, so she had a leg up over a lot of parents out there that knew who to ask the tough questions to. New parents out there, they don't know where to go. They're like, oh my God, we need speech therapy, and where do I get it? And who's a good provider? And does insurance cover it? And what if I'm not making enough money and we need to put food on the table? And they're just, it's horrible situation. I mean, there's a lot of things that parents have to deal with. And, this is just another one, but you're at the point where you just want the best for your kid. And when you deliver that, you just feel helpless. So, I mean, you're right. There's a whole communication and learning process out there. And that's something we're trying to do as well. And it's just a difficult situation for everyone.
Well, it sounds like you're taking that situation and making it simpler for everybody.
Well, we're trying, right? It's funny because, you and I have talked about entrepreneurship and all things like that. And I believe that all entrepreneurs should have some philanthropic cause. And thank goodness, it's funny because I left corporate world in 2007 and we launched at the same time. Basically, the initiative launched at the same time we launched the business. And then 7 years later, it became an official 501c3. But it's funny how that philanthropic cause made everything we were doing on the business side so much better and so much more meaningful, because a lot of the funds that we were making with the business went to the foundation, and we were getting more people involved, and we were making more of a difference than just offering business services,
Wow.
So it really felt like everything was more meaningful because we were actually changing people's lives in a positive way. And we could see that firsthand. And we were getting pictures from the parents, and we were getting notes from the kids who just started to write, or they would draw a wonderful picture to us and send it. And you're just like, oh, I can't believe this. This is really making an impact, way more than what we were doing on the content marketing side.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I haven't talked about this too much, but one of the lessons that I learned, a number of years ago in my role, but I try to use it today as well, as an entrepreneur, sometimes like we may feel like, oh, I just don't want to do this today, or do I have to? Or, hey, I own my own business. I should be able to give myself some free time. But it's waking up and saying, okay, who needs me to be on my A game today? And a lot of times, that's of course our families. Sure. But then when you add that philanthropic focus to the entrepreneurship side, then it's, these kids and these stories. Like, if I'm on my A game, then more of this can happen.
You're right. It makes everything more meaningful. And probably, and this is, I don't know if this is interesting to people listening, but the fact that my family was involved in this whole thing as well, all at the same time. Like one of our biggest fundraisers every year is the Golf for Autism, which we started in 2007. So we just celebrated our 15th year. We've been able to generate almost $1 million through this program that went out to kids in the United States. And at every one of those events, every one from 2007 to 2021, my two kids have been there in their orange shirts. Of course, Orange Effect, everything is orange. I'm wearing my orange shirt and Ricky Fowler pants and the whole thing. And we're out there having a wonderful time, but knowing we're doing it for good, but having the family be part of that made that. I have a feeling it's got to make an impact on the kids. Just being a part of that, they're going to remember that as they get older to give back, hopefully. But it's just been that much more special because of it.
I think so. Absolutely. Our children look to us as examples, and they take in a lot more just by watching us than we think they do. And so my hope is that my children will, take away some of these lessons as well on being able to take from our overabundance and help and support other causes that are near and dear to our hearts.
Absolutely. It's funny. I was on a podcast yesterday talking about this, and they said, what's your definition of leadership? And I don't think I've ever been asked that on a podcast. And my answer was action, not words. There's a lot of definitions of leadership, right? You probably have yours. Everybody has theirs. But that really stuck with me, that whole action part. And, you say a lot of things to your kids, but when you do things and they see it, that makes the most impact. We always say, do as I say, not as I do, right? Because that's like, oh, no, I'm not doing the right things. But in this case, I think we're doing the right thing.
Absolutely right. Well, I want to talk about family a little bit more, but I want to talk about the families of these children. What sort of feedback are you getting from the families?
Oh my goodness. It's funny because we just went out, we have our Silence for Speech therapy program going on in November. Basically, people sign up and they vow not to speak for 12 hours and they go fundraise. We ask our family who we delivered grants to, can we use your pictures to fundraise for this? And every one of them, they give us everything, right? They say, oh, you want all these pictures? Here's this picture of my son or daughter. Here's this picture. Here's the case study. We get the notes from the therapist that say, oh, they started and they had 30 words in their vocabulary. And now 12 months later, they've got 200 words in their vocabulary. They're doing really well. They're starting to play with other people. Those are the things that we want to hear. That's how we quantify it, is that the kids are whatever whatever the therapist defines as successful, then we're seeing that happen in play therapy and speech therapy. And that's all that's all we're trying to do. It's funny. It's just like that word normal hits me all the time. Like, what is normal? Like, especially today, what is normal?
Yeah.
I guess normal is if you're saying, I want my kid to be normal, you really don't want that. What you want is you want your kid to be and do, whatever their heart's desire, right? Wherever their passion leads them, they want to be able to do that. And a huge part of that, and we take it for granted because most of us don't have any problem speaking, is the ability to communicate with other people. However we do that.
That's right.
And so that's it. It's really all about communication. And then how do we improve that communication process so the kids can be whoever they want to be?
Excellent. I love that. And then, so with the opportunity you've had to create all these relationships with the different speech therapists, are you getting any feedback from them, especially on what's working, or even feedback around like what might make their role and what might help improve the experience for the families?
What's amazing is it's funny because we just had one of our speech therapists just passed away, and we weren't really close to them, but we did deliver funds to them. They had a number of our Orange Effect kids, and the husband basically made a rather large donation to Orange Effect Foundation in her name, which was just amazing that we didn't know. Sometimes you just don't know you make that kind of impact,
right? And
apparently we did, and because we were able to help her kids that normally wouldn't have gotten any help. So that's the type of things. I mean, our board, and we've learned so much in this process. I talked to you a little bit about insurance and whatever, but what you don't realize is a lot of people think, oh yeah, speech therapists, they're doing speech therapy. They've got all these sessions during the day, or they do it through school, or they do it through the hospital or whatever. But they know, their heart breaks when they need to offer their own services and can't do it because realistically, they have to make a living too. And if somebody can't afford it, they can't support themselves. They can't offer those services for free in a lot of cases. So that's where we can come in, and we've really helped out. So it's funny. It seems like when you talk to a lot of the therapists, we become sort of a special part of their lives as well, because we were able to fill a gap that they thought would not be filled.
Wow. I can only imagine how heartbreaking that might be to want to be able to offer these services. And at times, I can think that some therapists may offer discounts or whatever else. But you're right. At the end of the day, that's their business. That's their living. They have to make a living. So it's heartbreaking when someone can't afford to do that.
That's right. Yeah. And then we basically, what happens is when a speech therapist finds out about our services, we get a lot of applications in, which is great. That's what we want, right?
That's it.
We want a lot of applications. And because we get more applications every quarter, we have to make sure that we have the funds. So we have a lot of really amazing corporate customers, but most of our donations are individuals just from all over the world, actually, that either donate one time or donate to one of our causes or donate on a monthly basis to us. And it's just amazing to see that support. And it really happens from a lot of people that have autism in their life. Somehow they may have a nephew or a brother or a sister or something like that in their family that's affected. So right away, when they see Orange Effect Foundation, they become attached to it because they're like, okay, yeah, here's an organization that makes sense for my goals as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I'm curious, what does it cost on an annual basis to be able to help support the grants that you are awarding?
Yeah. So basically, I mean, if you do the math, we've got 250 or so kids, and we're distributing between $2,500 and $10,000 a kid that's going out there. And we like to be on the higher side. And the challenge that we have, Matt, is that we can't give to everyone that comes in. We have to be a little bit picky about our application process because, like a lot of nonprofits, we have limited funds, and that's what breaks our heart. So that's why, that's why we're in the fundraising business, right? Every non-for-profit feels that they have the goal and they want to make the case to a donor, and we do as well. So, that's why I'm sort of in charge of fundraising, going out there and get as many people to give so we don't have to turn people away, because we would give more money if we could. Absolutely. And so hopefully by, talking with you, talking with other people, we can get more people to give to this thing, and we can affect more kids.
Yeah, that's the goal. As more people become aware of this opportunity, as more therapists become aware of it to be able to communicate to their families, then there's more people coming back to you. So the need becomes greater and greater.
just got to keep working it. And it's amazing. Like when we were talking before the show, man, I can't believe that I've already been in this. It's been 15 plus years that we've been doing this. It just happens like a blink of an eye. And we've helped so many kids, but there's so many more that we need to help.
Well, it's going to be cool to see what you're able to do over the next 15 years.
Fingers crossed.
There you go.
It'll be a lot more kids, or what we'll see is we'll see those kids that we've been able to help do amazing things. And we're already seeing that, which is what makes it all worthwhile.
That's part of it too, is to be able to tell those long-term stories about the impact that some of these, kids, now young adults, are making in the world.
Absolutely. That's what we're doing. That's why we're doing it, my friend. Yep.
One of the fundraising events you have is the Silence for Speech Therapy event. Talk to me about that.
So last year we had an idea that we thought, so we have multiple fundraising events every year. We have 2 big fundraising events around golf. We do 100 holes in a day. We've been doing for 2 years. That's probably our biggest fundraiser, where you get 24 crazy people out there golfing 100 holes in a day, and they raise money for that. We've got a regular golf outing. We've got our regular giving, but we thought that Silence for Speech Therapy could be something that people would resonate with, because we're saying, look, we want you to fundraise. We want you to be part of OEF. We want you to support these kids, but we also want you to sort of feel like, what does it feel like when you can't communicate? So we're asking people that fundraise for Silence for Speech Therapy. So this year for 2022 is don't speak for 12 hours during the day. Use note cards. We've got buttons for people that say, I'm not speaking because I'm supporting kids who need speech therapy. And we've got a lot of people that are really doing an amazing job, or planning on doing an amazing job on November 11th and 12th of this year, to not speak. So if people want to, if you want to donate to somebody, or if you actually want to get involved and not speak, you just go to Silence for Speech, the number 4. So silenceforspeech.com, and you'll see the sign up page. You'll see the kids' pictures that we've helped. You'll see why we're doing it. You'll see the number of people that are signed up and our goals and everything. And the more, the merrier. So maybe you don't feel that you can stop speaking for 12 hours, but I'll tell you what, I did it last year. We did 24 hours, which was crazy because it is so difficult. 12 hours is still going to be difficult, but 12 straight hours, you don't realize you talk all the time. I mean, you talk to yourself, you talk to other people. Like, you really have to plan it well. That's why we do it over a weekend, and we give multiple days, because some people have to work on Friday. So you can do Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, whenever makes the most sense for you. But I love it. It really works well, because I think it really hits home. Like, not speaking is such a big deal, or not being able to communicate is such a big deal. And that's the problem we're trying to solve.
Well, I know that was difficult for you to be able to do that. So congrats.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me? It's there. I can't shut up. This is horrible. Absolutely.
And then I think about me trying this. Like, I got to figure out how I can time it to where my silence is not when my kids are at home, so they can't think this is a free for all for them to do whatever they want, because I won't be able to say, stop it.
You have to take your notepad around, or your flashcards, or do a little sign language and make it that way.
Yeah. Or big flashing red light.
There you go. Yeah. Just everybody stop. Everybody stop messing around.
So if people want to learn more and get involved, especially right now, they can go to silenceforspeech.com.
Silenceforspeech.com, or just in general, theorangeeffect.org is our address. And we'd love you if you just want to learn more, just sign up for our newsletter. We send out a monthly newsletter to update everybody about what we're doing. And we'd love to get more people involved if the need and the mission is aligned with what people are doing in their own lives. Oh, yeah.
Well, I know that so many people can point to somebody else in their life if they don't already have someone with autism that needs this type of speech therapy in their own family. I'm sure they can at least point to somebody in their life that they know that this is affecting. So just being able to communicate and make people more aware of it, I think, is huge.
Well, thank you, Matt. I appreciate the focus. I'm glad you took November to do this kind of stuff, because this is really important. And it's, I usually go on and talk about content marketing or entrepreneurship. So it's always nice to be able to talk about the Orange Effect Foundation.
There you go. But now, Joe, last question for you, and I hope you're prepared for this. If you were to create a 5-song soundtrack for the Orange Effect Foundation, what songs would you include?
Oh my gosh. So this is going to be weird, but I'm sure when you do these, it's always weird. First one will be Living on a Prayer by Bon Jovi, because we're praying that more people would help us affect more kids in a positive way. I like Not Afraid by Eminem, because we want everybody to remain courageous and do what they need to do. I Want It All by Queen, because we really do want to affect as many people as possible. I like Can't Stop by Red Hot Chili Peppers would be another one, because we got to keep moving forward. And then this last one is very personal to me. My oldest favorite, the one we were talking about before, favorite song is Summer Highland Falls by Billy Joel. So that's that personal one. And Summer Highland Falls, that's an early Billy Joel song. It's off the Turnstiles soundtrack. So if you probably, most people know Billy Joel from like We Didn't Start the Fire or Uptown Girl or something like that. But his great stuff is early, and that's the stuff that my oldest and I always listen to together. So.
Oh, that's amazing. And for y'all to be able to enjoy that together, I know that's super special.
When my oldest comes home from school, from college, he gets out the turntable and we put on a little Billy Joel. So there you go.
Love it. I think the only Billy Joel I have on vinyl, I think, is The Stranger. So I might throw that on.
Oh, well, you know what? If you were going to have one on vinyl at all, or one album, The Stranger is a good one. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. Can't go wrong with Glass Houses.
Oh, also good.
I like the early stuff myself. So
me too. Awesome. Well, Joe, I really appreciate you coming back again so soon and to come on and talk about this.
Thank you for the opportunity, Matt. Anytime.
I hope you enjoyed my discussion with Joe Pulizzi. So go learn more at theorangeeffect.org. And if you'd like to participate in their Silence for Speech Therapy fundraiser this month, then head to silenceforspeech.com. That's the number 4. And don't think I'm asking you to do something that I wouldn't do myself. I, too, am participating in the Silence for Speech Therapy fundraiser. That means me, Matt Lyles, I'm going to have 12 hours of silence. I bet my family will thank me for that. So if you'd like to help me help the Orange Effect Foundation, then you can make a donation through mattlyles.com/silence. And if you're enjoying these special November Nonprofit Simple Brand podcast episodes, go ahead, hit the subscribe button. It's going to make it a lot simpler for you to get future episodes like the next one featuring Tim Nelson, CEO of Hope for Justice. Hope for Justice is a global organization that works to bring an end to modern slavery by preventing exploitation, rescuing victims, restoring lives, and reforming society. Tim and I discuss some disheartening and shocking information around slavery. You'll find out that there's a lot more to slavery than sex trafficking. And you'll hear the surprising places where it's actually happening. But you'll also hear the positive difference that Hope for Justice is making in the world to free and restore slavery victims and to advocate for more awareness of how and where we can all play a part in ending slavery. So go ahead and subscribe. You'll automatically get Tim's episode as soon as it's live. Until then, keep it simple.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Simple Brand Podcast. Want to make your listening experience simple and automatically receive each new episode? Visit our website, simplebrandpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen. If you're finding value from the Simple Brand Podcast, leave us a rating or review. That helps us get the show to the ears of the people who need it most. Be sure to catch Matt right here next week. Same Matt time, same Matt channel. Until then, keep it simple.